All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at our how we can create tabs. So we always start off with our import statement. So we're going to import our my commands as my commands, and then we're going to go ahead and make a class, and we'll just call this tabs. Now we're going to define our initialization function. Remember, these are 2 underscores init, 2 underscores, and what we're doing is we're just passing in, and remember, we can make this whatever we want, but this is a handle that we're going to be using later for our window and our tabs and all that other stuff, saying that all of the tabs and windows are connected to this particular Python script. So we'll just start off with self.win equals MC dot and then window. And we've done this before, and I'm a big fan of repetition, so that it kind of like jogs into your brain. But the title of this window could be tabs, and we set our width and height. We'll go a little bit bigger because my monitor is like kind of, it's pretty high resolution, so I'm gonna go bigger than what I've done before, which is 400 by 400. I'll go like 600 by 600. And let's see. And then the way you create a tab is pretty easy. You just write self dot and then tab. And that's going to be equal to our tab layout. So tab layout. Oops, that was right. And now we actually create our first tab. So I'm going to call this F tab. And I'll make that equal to MC. I'm just going to copy this. And what we're doing is this is going to be a column layout. So I'm going to change it from tab layout here to column. And then we're going to, let's see, we'll actually set the parameters of our tab here. So what I'm going to do is do MC tab layout here. I'm going to call this again down here, and this is where I'll set the parameters. So MC.tab layout, and what I'm doing is the same as before. I'm going to call this one, and I'm going to make it editable. So edit true. And I believe that's a capital T. And what I'm doing here is I'm specifying that I'm going to be editing this first tab. Actually, this looks a little off, just to be safe. So I want to do my label for my tab. Now this label is going to be equal to essentially these 2 parameters. First, the tab that I'm editing is this one, which is my first tab, and then I want to give it a name, so we'll just call this first tab. Yeah, let's zoom out a little bit so you can see that. And let's say I want to add a button to this tab. It's kind of bring in what we did before, mc.button, and then we'll give our button a label. And I'll call this Exos button, just so we can see the differentiation. And then remember, we always have to set it to the parent object, which is essentially our this column that we made earlier. So like remember here we made this column layout here, F tab equals column layout. So we want to add this button to this column layout. So the way we do that is we do set parent. So MC dot set parent, and then a couple dots here. Now if we want to add a second tab, we can just copy all of this, and we can say, okay, instead of a column layout for this tab, we can do a scroll layout. And let's see. We can add a button to that, exo second button. And let's see. So let's see. And we want to call this F tab. So first we'll call this S tab for second tab. And we'll copy this. And we'll paste this here. And we'll call this second tab. And let's see. We want to set the parent of this as well. But what we can do is, let's take a look at how we can loop through and create a bunch of these buttons. So let's go ahead and do for I. Now this is sort of a, you can think of this as a straight ahead way of searching or creating. So for example, like we're going from 0 to 20, right? So for I in range, and the range that we're looking at is 20 here. So from essentially 0 to 20, we want to create a bunch of buttons. So I'm going to copy this line. Actually, let's copy this line here. So mc.button, and the label that we're doing is, we'll just say like buttons, button in our loop. So we're going to loop through from 0 to 20, and then what we can do is we can call a string method. And we can say I, so you can see that here. Now, if you wanted to start at 1, you could do +1, because remember, it starts off at 0. But let's just start off at I, so you can see that happening. So as it's looping through, one thing that I need to do is actually show the window. And that's this window up here. So I'm going to hit Control S to save that. Let's run it. There we go. So we have an error. Unexpected indent. And let's see, where is that line that it has a problem with? Error, unexpected indent. So it could be where I'm actually calling the import. Let's see, import class tabs. Let's see. Oh, this line here. There we go. If I hit Control Enter, so you got to be very careful with that with Python. You can see we have a second tab here, and it has button in our loop starting off at 0. Now, if you wanted it to be button in our loop 1, because 0 doesn't really make sense, you can just say +1 here, save that, and hit Control Enter. And now when you go inside of here, you can see exo second button, and that's this button up here that we created. Let's see. So exo second button is this one. And we also have our 2 tabs. Let me run that again. This first one is exo's button, and this is the other one here.